Hey, what's up? How is it going?
Hey, it's good. It's good. We're uh we're drawing some Scruth stuff today, so I'm excited. I've been drawing Scruth stuff all day today. But we're gonna do it now in front of other people. And Yeah, I mean everybody can see right now that I have been drawing Scruth all day along with all of his I these are the Chubcat cousins,
Right,
which
right.
because if Scruth's got his own cartoon show in his own world inside the world of the Nostalgitron, then there's going to be a whole cavalcade of obnoxious tie-ins in order to sell as many toys and stuffies and whatever as possible, right?
Right,
So
right.
yeah, these are all characters that people will get to learn more about inside Scruth Steals the Show, which is our bottle episode. I sort of side quest mini game inside the quick start for Stillfleet that is Enter the Nostalgitron. It's like meta wrapped in ridiculous. And that's exactly where I think I shine. So but yeah, this isn't what I'm drawing today though. This isn't what I'm going to draw on the
This isn't what we're
on the
drawing. Okay, cool. We're
no.
gonna we're gonna do some new stuff.
This is just a
Um,
sneak preview, and I'm going to give a little. You guys are going to get a little bit more of a sneak preview. You see all of my behind the scenes inside my Procreate. First off, I'll just show this off because I just finished this one this morning.
I love that one.
But this is our Scruth and his Skythopter, which makes absolutely no sense because if he's sitting in front of like if there's like an engine in front of him and it's like where's the propulsion coming from if it's like cut in half and he's like it doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't have to make sense because it is Scruth.
I mean, you say that, but
Um,
it's drawn so well, Michael. I feel like this would work in any like anime. If you saw a character, not
yeah,
necessarily a made-up Eldritch Garfield 3D printing accident from Stillfleet, but just like a cute, animal person on that thing in an anime, you'd be like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, what is that?"
yeah,
Give yourself credit there. I think you designed a Skythopter. And I just to back up on Scruth's cousins, I don't want to overpromise because the episode. The
yes,
episode generator, really, the adventure generator about Scruth is awesome and has lots of detail, but it does not have very much on these cousins. So if you like the
no,
cousins, people in the chat, let us know. We could make a whole nother thing about Scruth's show, but we are currently,
yeah,
it's almost like you're watching a TV show in the world of Stillfleet collide with the Void Miners colliding with, in this case, a demi snake person, a snake baron who has
yeah.
like gone forward in time and back in time. And so it's sort of like a bunch of things in a snow globe, sort of trapped elements together. But we actually only get a short phrase about each of these cousins. But if you want to have like these as NPCs or like they have, I don't know, different powers, hey, we can make stuff happen. I'm just saying, right, Michael? I don't want
Yeah. Oh,
no
listen.
promises.
I if there is demand for anything related to this character and all of his ridiculous cast, I think that we are more than happy to indulge everybody on that. These honestly, so much of Nostalgitron has been so much fun. But Scruth is the thing that both you and I. It's like you kind of wrote him in as this like snarf type character. I just in like the NPCs, and I went, oh, I got to draw that, and so I did. I was just inspired, and I was like, I'm gonna make him like Garfield, but like hypercolor, but like snarf, obviously, inspired by all of those things. Um, and then I they have taken on a life of their own. This 3D printing accident. That's we've got a whole spin off and everything
Yeah,
for the backers. So yeah, no, him and all of his buddies are like it's been so much fun goofing off with this over the last couple days. Um, but here's another character that you'll get in there. Kind of vampire hunter. I inspired. But that's just a tease. That one's just a tease. I'm not giving anybody any more details on that one. They'll have to wait until they get it to learn more about that character. But let's open up. We're going to open up a new canvas, and we're going to start because we're working on Frange Hambone and Grody the pork dog today. That's what the focus is.
So many NPCs, none of which necessarily needed to be illustrated for this sort of bonus venture, mini venture kind of book that we wrote. It's a 12 page, it's a zine, right? It's a bonus zine. It's very fun. It's got new rules. It's got a new playable species. But I love the commitment to the bit, Michael, of like, or is this even for this? Yeah, it is, right? So these are just the last bits of like, no, I really want to see this character. We came up with it, gave it a person a name. What do they look like? And I know you're a character designer among many other things. So sort of belated intro, Michael J. Cohen, Arkangel Wulf.
Yes, Arkangel Wulf.
A lot of nouns. They're all cool and sci-fi. Arkangel Wulf design and illustration. Amazing professional designer and illustrator who helped us out with the new Stillfleet Quickstart and full venture Enter the Nostalgitron, which is done basically, and we're just doing this kind of extra zine that comes with it if you backed early, and you can also pick it up on the side. We're going to sell the PDF for like $3, I think we said. So it's definitely attainable. But yeah, very excited for this one to not be sort of a nice cover, and that's it. It's full of art. Like the book, it really turned out to be very rich with, like NPCs and just like the sword. Someone in the chat very nicely pointed out. There's the sort of sword with the muscle guard. Also thanks to Vex in the chat for telling us that the Skythopter probably wouldn't work because wings aren't supposed to bend that much. But again, I feel like in an anime, I don't know. Vex knows a lot more about this, but I feel like if you saw it,
tell that to Hayao Miyazaki because everything has like that wing with the angle on it. Every that was the inspiration for that part of the design.
It's true that like biplanes have straight, like original aircraft have straight wings and modern aircraft have straight wings, so probably that's true. But cool. So Michael, that was just quick intro. We love working with you. It's been really fun to be able to collaborate with you, and we're still collaborating actually now on Danse Macabre medieval horror role playing. We'll have to have you on. Maybe we can talk about that with Chris or something, and about some of your work and art for that. But for the Scruth Steals the Show zine, you want to say a little more about your process and what you're drawing today, and just kind of set up what we're going to watch, and just kind of chill. It's a chill hour of drawing. So, as Michael talks, again, if anybody has questions, just pop them in the chat.
Yeah, so I as I kind of mentioned before, when we started doing this sort of like spin-off zine book, it was the conceit that within this weird non-reality inside the Nostalgitron, that Scruth has his own cartoon show, right? And so I was like, well, if he's got his own cartoon show, it's got to have all of the the standard staples of a Saturday morning cartoon. Like he's got to have all of his sidekicks and whatnot. And being that he is very Garfield esque in a lot of ways, which I know is like a very in the zeitgeist right now. Like there's this weird thing about Garfield where it's like, oh, he's like this weird like entity sort of thing. But I just actually legitimately love Garfield. Like Garfield is one of the big inspirations for me growing up as a kid when it comes to cartooning. And Garfield and Friends, the cartoon show, was one of my like go-tos. It was one of my faves. So yeah, we added in all of these other characters. And I've kind of been saving these ones for the live stream. And that's his John Arbuckle and Odie, right? So Frange and Grody. But obviously they're going to be kind of Stillfleet-esque and Nostalgitron-esque. So not quite as like straight analogs. So this I'm just kind of roughly getting an idea. I kind of have these characters in my head already because I've been thinking about them now for months. So I this is just a matter of like sort of getting down the skeleton of what I want. And his pose will make more sense in a second, because right now we just have Hambone here, but in a second we'll have somebody else join him, and it'll make a little bit more sense. But
And
yeah,
so
I just
you're
want
starting with you have a mental image right away based on these references, right?
yeah.
And you also have a sense of what that means in terms of the pose. So you're starting essentially with like, I know how I want the pose to be, and then I'll start filling in details. Is that a fair way to say sort of how you approach the design process here?
Yeah, and honestly, like it starts with more like the feeling than anything, right? It's I want to what do I want to what do I want to convey about this character, right? And I if there's anything for anybody who is a fan of Garfield, it's like if there's anything that about John Arbuckle as a character, the main source of inspiration, it's that he is perturbed by just about everything. He's got the worst cat, and and he's got to constantly feed him lasagna, which has got to be expensive, and he's doing it on a cartoonist salary, right? Like, which let me tell you, not easy. So um so I want to have that vibe to it. I want him to be frazzled and kind of like very put out by this other character that we're going to add in a second, who again I've been thinking about quite a bit but have not drawn yet. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves. I do have a pretty good idea of what I want, but and right now at this stage, it's like we can just kind of goof around with a lot of it because it's very, very loose. So I just want to make sure that like my proportions are right. I want to make sure that that the sort of motion of it is correct. And I'm realizing that I've actually messed something up on this hand already, because I've made it an open hand, but it's actually going to need to be a closed one because he's going to be holding a leash. So let's just kind of close his hand up a little bit there. But yeah, super rough right now. So Franz Hambone is going to be he's going to be just he's a guy. I want him to really just be a guy, right? Because you go through the rest of the Nostalgitron and everybody's like, we've got like Branley Two Scoops, who's like got this giant sun medallion, and his 2 scoops of raisins, and his robes, and he's very like he's a very sort of like religious looking character, and then we've
like
got
kind of a
obviously
wrestler but religious, or like a religious wrestler, something.
yeah, as if like the WWE was like, and this guy's a monk that's devoted to raisin cereal. And then we've obviously got all of our like very action characters and stuff, right? But Scruth, he like bucks that by being this straight up cartoon compared to everybody else. And then within that, I want this guy. I want Franz to be very like, he's just a guy. He's just a dude.
No, and I love that because I do think Stillfleet tends toward the ultra weird, which is obviously fun, like Guilty. But it does kind of make sense that you would sometimes need to like interject banality or like show off, okay, what is banality in this situation? So in the Nostalgitron kind of specific story, it's a basically a fascist takeover of a city, which again, we wrote this a while ago, but now as we're taping, Washington D.C. has been taken over by like ICE and the FBI. So it's very funny how these things, it's like a very loose, amorphous critique of power. We're sort of leftists who like don't mostly we're talking about cartoons, right? So it wasn't that serious. But then as I say it, I was like, oh, how could I describe the situation in which Franz Hambone lives? Oh, right, he lives in like a big city that's just been taken over by fascists, and he can't do anything about it. He's just a guy, right? He has a normal job. And so I think that is kind of interesting to say, okay, it's the future on an alien planet, but he's a human with a normal job. So that's a very, that is, talking about Star Wars in the chat, that's a kind of Star Wars scenario, right? Oh, it's the far future, but also this is basically what we call them, with great love and not at all pejorative, but techno peasants, right? It's like you're in the future, but you're just a guy. So I really like that impulse, Michael, and I agree that is the joke, both of of Garfield. That Garfield is this eldritch, horrible roommate, and John is just this weird, frustrated Jim Davis. It's like usually people do power fantasies, and Jim Davis did like the lamest version of himself. So
Yeah.
like he's like a famously a millionaire, billionaire, whatever, and his alter ego is like a schmo. But yeah, no. So I really I can't wait to see sort of how these essentially mutant alien pets are frustrating Franz Hambone, their sort of caretaker. And yeah, shout out in the chat. Yes, I've been reading a lot about. Well, I like reading about yokai anyway and Japanese history, but I just wrote the chapter for Danse Macabre on Japan in 1390 when basically a mutant zombie apocalypse happens, and so just been really diving deep, reading like old anthropology books about Tengu and other creatures. So Vex, feel free to go off. But yeah, so as we see, the pose is set, and now we're getting some really fun elements, which will say you really nailed the eyes. But those eyebrows, man, Michael, I don't know if you want to say something about eyebrows before I just start rambling about yokai, like Japanese folklore.
Yeah. No, for sure. I well, his name is Franz, right? Like, as I was like, as I'm drawing it, I'm like, Franz has big bushy eyebrows, like Eugene Levy bushy eyebrows. So yeah, that's he also in the lore is he's a part-time jazz musician. So I really think that he needs a little soul patch. I think that that's really important to just because like that's part of his street cred. He's got to have a soul patch.
As a sci-fi NPC, he's a jazz musician because his last name is Hambone.
Yeah.
Just because it seemed like a fun cartoon NPC last name. Because it's a translation, right? We're reading it transliterated into English, into the Roman alphabet. Who knows what it sounds like in this language?
Yeah.
Someone named Cheryl Carlin is giving you a shout out in the chat, Mike. Not to blow up your spot, Cheryl. Thanks for popping in.
Awesome. Thank you for hanging out.
Yeah, thanks everyone who's hanging in the chat today. Feel free to drop links to your own stuff or ask questions or just say random things. This is unstructured. Me and Michael. I'm just really watching. I'm not really doing anything. I'm just rambling. But okay, so you're doing some hair. So it sort of went pose, a little bit of clothing, a little bit of hair, and now you're filling in these kind of. To me, it looks like it's becoming more emotional. So it went from kind of a figure, who knows what the person's feeling, to like, this looks like anger, frustration, right? The John Arbuckle face.
Yeah. He's definitely got the what the heck are you doing? So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm happy with that for now, and I might add some more weird details to him as we go. But I think now it's time to add the pork dog, Grody himself. So this is seriously, I have been holding off on this. I have been like, don't do it, even though I want to draw it so bad. So I literally just came up with the name. We were writing, and I just wrote down Grody the pork dog, and was like, I'm gonna have to figure that out later, and it's gonna be fun. Yeah, so pork dog just sounds funny to me. So obviously he's gonna be some sort of a wiener dog, but because we're in a weird meta reality where things are 3D printed and can come to life and can be anything, he's literally going to be a wiener dog. So most important part is going to be the body shape, and I think it's just going to be a matter of like determining like how wienerish he's going to be, and how versus how dog. What's the ideal ratio of pork to pooch? I'm just going to turn Franz down a little bit so that we can see Grody a little bit better. But he's going to be energetic, intentionally obnoxious. Look, if you are a fan of Adventure Time, get ready, because this is going to be very, very, very Jake-esque, just because that's basically the only way that I know how to draw a dog. Is the way that Pendleton Ward draws a dog. So
I mean, I think that's just how dogs look, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm a cat person, so
Yeah. Well,
who knows what
obviously
dogs look like?
we started with Scruth. I am a Garfield fan. I am more of a cat person than a dog person. I but I but yeah, to the best of my knowledge, this is what dogs look like. Yeah. So yeah, again, just trying to get like the right energy, the right sort of like motion to it. Do I want to start with the tail? I think I'm going to save the tail. The tail actually is going to be a question that I have for the audience, because I can go a couple ways with it. We can do a classic, dash and sort of like it's going to be one of two tails if it's an actual dog tail, right? It's either going to be that sort of like little spike, right, the little curvy spike, or we can do like a little corkscrew, which is also kind of pig like. We can kind of do either one of those with a small dog, but I we can also tie him off on the end like a sausage, like a cartoon sausage. So I would love to get the feedback from everybody here as to what they think would be the best. I can give some examples because like this is what a tied off little like sausage.
Yeah, we have a vote for sausage. So yeah, everyone in the chat, if you can vote, I think the options are corkscrew like a pig. What was the second one? I'm pretty into sausage myself, but
Just sort of like a nice like a just like a classic little sort of spiked,
okay,
sort
okay,
of that
yeah,
spiky little wagging tail.
a little petite wagging tail for a dachshund, or sausage tie off because actually it's a stuffed eldritch. Again, who knows how this is created? It's like fish parts brought to life by rogue nanites. It's not. It's not. It's a dog in the Stillfleet sense. Um, Huge dog tail. Okay, Vex is voting huge dog tail that would hurt you when it thwacks. So very different. You might have to do like a like a GI Joe. You get a toy where you'd have like three different versions of a thing you could put on the
Yeah.
guy's hand. It might have to be like that with a tail, where there's like a clearly that you're supposed to be able to swap out the different tails for what a pork dog tail looks like. And also, good point from One Up Pineapple. Normal dog tail could be good, since it's the one normal part of it, right? So sort of that idea of counterbalancing, like how weird does each thing get, or do you do some normcore stuff?
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? Is that like it's kind of all we're kind of already very sausage shaped. Um so yeah. Well, let's experiment. Let's see. Actually, let's cut this tail off. It's okay. He's not real.
You're
Cut and
watching
paste
some
that onto its
surgery.
own layer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's do the
scalpel.
corkscrew tail.
And Michael, you're not working from reference. Like this is reference in your head as to other cartoons and comics and such, right? I mean, it's not like you're looking any of this up. It's just
I don't have any reference in front of me right now, which is sometimes a mistake. But yeah, this is just from sort of what's in my brain. Um, but we're playing with like really classic cartoon stuff right now, so that to me is pretty easy. It's pretty easy to sort of figure out, what's that going to look like, because I have spent a great deal of time. Actually, that's on the wrong layer, but I've spent a great deal of time goofing off with this sort of thing. So there we go. So that's a corkscrew tail, and then we would have like the sort of more classic. Just kind of give it a little bit of dimension to it, though. A little spiky tail. That's to show that it is wagging. We add those action lines, right? So yeah, I don't know. I honestly can kind of go with any of these. I think actually the corkscrew might be my favorite, just because it's kind of odd. It's just kind of uh, adding a little bit more weirdness to it. But
yeah. I mean,
I'll leave it to everybody in the chat.
they are really good. I guess in the chat, final. Now that you've seen the options, essentially, final. You know, yeah. One is a stinger, one's a corkscrew, and one is that sort of tie off. Oh no, this is actually not a dog. It's a deg. I mean, first of all, they're called degs. Um, oh, love it. Are these some eyes? Are we getting some eyes?
Yeah.
Nice. And yeah, we're also talking about recent movies. Exit 8, I heard was very good, and Vex confirms. And I will just put out there, we saw Weapons a couple weeks ago, and that is the best movie I've seen in ages. Like, in terms of pure
Oh yeah.
auteurship that made it all the way through. I mean, it's one thing, like, Black Bag was pretty much a perfect, espionage movie, but it's Soderbergh. I mean, he has the money and clout. Dune 2 loved, but, again, it's Villeneuve and it's Dune. It's too big to fail. For someone to make a movie like Weapons, that's just like it almost is more like a Donnie Darko than it is like a typical shitty horror movie that would be allowed to be made in Hollywood. It just everyone should go watch the movie. It's great. But yeah, Exit 8 definitely next on the list here. Um, all right, what is happening with? Is this a mouth? Is this olfactory organ? What is
This
happening,
is this
Michael?
is a nose. This is a nose, and if we pop back to Scruth, you'll notice one of the things that's very off-putting about that design is that he has four nostrils, as do all of the chub cats, and so I'm playing with it to see if that's what I want to do here, because I do want Grody to be kind of a little bit terrifying to look at.
Yeah, no, I love the mix. That it's not like a cat. Again, it's like a sort of weird, misremembered. It's like a haunted, advanced, dangerous, intelligent ship being asked to 3D print a thing from a perhaps badly reconstructed, media artifact from millions of years ago, and so it sort of sees like a Studio Ghibli cat and is like, and it fucks up trying to make one, and then it discards it, and the thing is alive and intelligent. So I think these levels of just like the things you're trying to illustrate, it's been really fun to kind of talk through that. Um, we have a couple points on the nostrils. So, do they smell extra, or is it just for looks? So, two things to respond to, Michael. Does it smell extra, like functional? Does it have a purpose? And then Vex says, the detail's a little lost in my opinion, which fair enough. It looks kind of cauliflower nosy to me. It looks like beaten up. I'm not sure I would read that as specifically for nostrils, but it does look weird. Like it looks alien.
Yeah.
So again, But
Yeah.
anyway, do you want to comment on either functionality or like just the design choice, or is it just like a weird squiggle and you liked the squiggle? Like how did that come to be?
It was in the process of going like, okay, this is looking a little bit too Garfield. This is looking a little bit too much like a cat. So what is a chub cat and what is a 3D printing accident? How does that in what ways does that manifest? So that's where the extra arms came from. Because Scruth has two sets of arms, and then then legs, so six limbs total. And then the other thing that I added was the upper teeth are canines, but on Scruth, their bottom teeth are sort of like flat hippopotamus style tusks, which has become a defining characteristic of a chub cat. So I yeah, like the four nostrils is just it's similar to that where I'm just going like it's the Star Wars method of like familiarity that you just kind of start twisting, right? You go, okay, Yoda is a wizard, right? But he's like, what kind of wizard is he? He's like the little wizard that you find on the side of the road that's a frog at first, and if you're nice to him then he'll give you wizard powers, or if you're mean to him he's going to curse you, right? And that's sort of like when
He'll
we look
throw
at
your
Star
ass
Wars.
like 100 feet, right, with his wand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's how George Lucas has talked about the character, is that like that sort of that beginning when he first meets Lucas, he's testing him, right? Like he's kind of like, oh, are you like, I'm gonna act like an idiot and we're gonna see how patient you are to see if I can train you, sort of thing. um but so then from there they start going like, okay, so like then what is he gonna be? He's gonna be like a little frog, so he turns green. And it's like, well, he's kind of goblin like, right? Because he's very mischievous, so let's give him pointy ears. So you start giving him the pointy ears, and then Stuart Freeborn, who designed the character, just was like, well, he needs to look like an old man. So he looked in the mirror and went, I look like an old man. And he just sculpted his own face. But it's like that's how characters and creatures are designed in Star Wars, where you kind of just start with a core concept of it, and then you just sort of start adding these different elements to it to see which one of these is going to stick, which one of these is the best. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm such a student of all of that stuff, obviously. It's a Star Wars nerd, everything behind me, but it is, yeah, I've watched so many of the behind the scenes documentaries and stuff like that, that that's what I've picked up for character design, is like, yeah, we're just gonna get weird. We just get weird with it.
Yeah.
It is actually also a reference to the 2012 John Carter movie, and you can probably see it even more here than on Scruth, because Woola also has 4 nostrils, and I love that design. And actually, if I were to pull up reference of Woola right now, this face that is currently on Grody the pork dog is Woola's face. So yeah.
Which is great, because I specifically, I always enjoyed reading those books growing up. I thought, they're real weird. They're real racially problematic. There's all kinds of problems with
for sure, yeah,
literature. Yeah. That was around the same time as Lovecraft. It's totally different in some ways. In other ways, it's the same. It's the sort of birth of American SF and some really interesting concepts about alterity. But then it's like alterity is generally bad, or like the nearness to sort of like mainstream American like white masculinity is good, and then things are sort of pegged to that. So it's like there's things about the writing of those stories that's like energetic and fun. But it was really interesting when they made that movie. I remember going to see it, just because I had read those books as a little kid, not knowing really what they were. It was just one of those, like, I'm getting sci-fi books from like the library down the street. And so it is interesting to think about the long tail of like how that's influenced. Like, okay, let's make a game that plays with some of those elements or distorts them or like mocks them, and then to have the chance with Nostalgitron where we're doing some of that visually and be able to talk through, like, yeah, let's like make fun of a thing, or what's a thing from Star Wars, or like, yeah, John Carter, that like there's some element of it that we're gonna like hybridize and have here, as it's again, it almost makes sense because it's kind of in the diegetic canon of the game. It's like the Snake Men have access to all that, right? They can just watch John Carter. I mean, maybe they have, like we said, a corrupted DVD or something. They only got part of the movie streamed before, whatever, they lost the stream of MacGuffin, tachyons or something. But I think it's really interesting to kind of think through, like, I don't know how those, like, the things we like from childhood were like, yeah, let's like make it but different. So I kind of like your iterative approach when you're talking about take an influence. It can't be too close. It's it's an homage. It's not plagiaristic. It's like, how do you sort of keep just doing that? And it's a process that unfolds, and you don't know where it's going when you don't know exactly where it's going when you start. You have an idea, and you just see so you see what happens next, point by point. So I think that's like writing too. You write sort of aspects of a character, and you don't totally know what they're going to be like on the last page. When you start on page 1, you have some sense, but to some degree they reveal themselves. So here, Grody the pork dog is revealing cute little ears.
Yeah.
Really love the kind of spam like tongue.
So I think the bigger ears, these ears I think are too big. These ears are too small. And I think that we've got a good spot right here.
Well, you do have a request for ears, so let me read this. So Vex writes, I don't know what I want to see for a nose, but I have 2 ideas for ears. Fox or hare. Just want to see some massive ears for some reason. And also love the spam tongue. Yeah, so I think tongue's a walk-off home run. I like the ears, but again, I'm also open to other ears if you're willing to play that same game of sort of audience co-crafting.
I mean, I'm open to looking at it, but so the reason I would be reluctant here, let's pop back and take a look at Scruth and his brethren here. These guys all have fox ears, essentially, right? Like to varying degrees. And I tried to switch it up with the cousins. I think it's Jerd. I think this is Jerd. I'm not super familiar with the names yet. I think, Wythe, you just kind of wrote them down and then assigned them with personalities. Yeah. Little bit more like sort of like little cub bear, Care Bear ears on this one, but that's because this one is the little energetic kid. This is the little normal annoying one.
If this is the widely beloved cousin, then that's Smurth. I don't know because we've not talked
No,
about this, so I
this
don't
one
know
is the
who.
widely beloved
Oh,
one,
that's
who's also
Smurf.
lazy, is
Okay.
Smurf, which is why, yeah, they've got the big grin.
Oh, Jerd
Just
with the big eyes. Yeah, she's the addict. Okay, yeah, she's like the sort of BoJack Horseman throwback. Okay, yeah. So, the child star struggling with addiction. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and then we've got our cryptocurrency hawking cousin here, with his copper things, which I've just made actual literal coins.
No, that's
Uh,
great. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
why not? You know, it comes back around. Every metaphor is demetaphorized by rich idiots at some point.
yeah, exactly.
Macro hard, you know.
Yeah, so that's the only reason why I would sort of steer away from the large pointed ears, because that's already in that other design. So I also just think that keeping that roundness on the top of the head is that's what's working for me the most here. Um, I think so. The leash has to be attached to something, which means that I think that we need a collar. And it's whether or not there's like a medallion down here, which I think is generally how we would do that. Where did everybody land on the tail? What was our verdict there?
I mean, I saw normal tail was the last thing, but it seemed like everyone loved all the tails too much. But I mean, if the normal tail with the wag is pretty funny, the corkscrew tail is also really good. I mean, the good thing, yeah, we could talk about having some sort of tail breakdown, or add that to the ends as a sketch or something. I don't know how much room you have, Michael, but that's we can talk about that later.
Yeah. No, I'm actually pretty happy with this. This is pretty close to what I had in my brain, and I'm liking it. I'm gonna start erasing some stuff to make room for the things that we've added, because that tongue's not going anywhere. I
Yeah,
mean,
the tongue's great.
I think the face is the right face. The face is the face that I wanted. Um,
So like a gremlin or gargoyle, just a
yeah,
monstrous little man. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I do like these ears.
It is
And
funny to exaggerate the face, but then the body is a little bit normal, and I think that again works with the sort of dissonance where like you kind of get that it's a cute little dog, but like the face is like, oh, that's get away from me. Yeah, I
yeah,
like I like the normal tail or the corkscrew more than as much as I like the idea of the sausage. It's just
it's maybe a little bit too much. It's
it's
just I
yeah
think it
yeah.
might push it a little bit too far. Oof, man, this is a tough choice. This is such a tough choice. I
So
think I
that's the
really like
artist.
the corkscrew, the
The
corkscrew.
corkscrew, yeah.
To the degree that I think actually even like let's make it a little bit bigger, just to make them that much weirder. Um, I'm gonna commit to this. Whoops, grab all the layers. There we go. But I do think that we need to kind of just tweak them ever so slightly. There, I think that's good. I think that's good.
So he's kind of coming at us more. Is that the skew you did? So it's he's kind of lifting his
Yeah, I
head up
just
more.
kind of wanted to get the face a little bit more prominent, like just the in terms of the proportions and how much of it was taking up. Um,
So to your point about making this character different from Scruthxtravaganza and the cousins, the Chub Cats, is the pork dog going to be colored in a very different way? Because Scruthxtravaganza and the cousins are very bright, right? And that's kind of it's taking okay, Garfield's this bright orange like tabby, but kind of a gross, just unrealistic shade. And then sort of making it rainbow, so they're all sort of rainbow, kind of
mhm.
disco vibe. Do you have thoughts on that, or am I jumping the gun if we're gonna get there?
No, Grody is going to be the color of a hot dog. Grody is going to be hairless and shiny and glistening, in the way that I think. Actually, I think that kids call them glizzies now. I think that's what they call hot dogs. I don't know why. I think it's somewhere in the area of it's Skibidi Toilet or whatever, that they just somebody started on the internet calling them glizzies, and so now that's what they're called. And yeah, so I think that I think that Grody has a little bit of that energy. Um,
I don't think I've heard this word. So in the chat, people have heard that, but yeah, I've never heard that one. Glizzies for hot dogs. Okay, glizzies for something that glistens or glitter. Okay, that's it's like um, a natural devolution or whatever. But glizzies for hot dog. I'd have to look that one up. Um, Great. Okay, so what color is a hot dog? Like a sad gray, kind of pinkish, somewhere in between, pink
so we
brown.
we have we have our fixed color palette for Nostalgitron, which is this one up here at the top. And you can see I've also got the blister critters one in here. I actually have the Slurps have a dedicated color palette because I needed some extra colors just for them. But so we're gonna pull from in this, and I think that the first one that I'll try is gonna be this sort of like pinky red. But before we do that, how much time we got? I think I have enough time. I think I can get
Yeah,
the
like
lines down on
yeah,
this.
15, 20 minutes. I mean, some of it's
Yeah.
like how much do you want to do on camera or how much is fun to watch, or are there other things you want to show us? I mean, it's your show, Michael. We're just living in it. Oh, so this is that step. So we talked about this with Ubun, right? So
Yeah.
you've kind of drawn it mimicking the way it used to work with drawing on pencil on our board and then going back and inking. So this is that kind of inking where you're going to have the more definitive outlines and play with each line um, and do the digital little twists and sort of get everything exactly right before you do the color flatting, right? Is that more or less
Yeah.
the process? Cool. Yeah, I almost want to see. Yeah, it's funny. I do like his face. It is disturbing. I almost want it to be a little more disturbing. I just can't think. I've been racking my brain like how. Oh, also as you're inking, Vex has the etymology of glizzy for us. Vex, hit us with the etymology. It's a very etymology forward show. Oh yeah, I like that with the eyes being even like sort of sadder. We do love some linguistics.
We're all like waiting with bated breath, I think, on for this definition.
Okay, Vex just posted Glock handguns, Glock plus Izzy from the kind of hip hop that loves the ZZY sound. So kind of the I think related to the Izzle phenomenon in the West Coast that Snoop Dogg kind of promulgated. So a Glock becomes a glizzy. So yeah, definitely makes sense that handgun, hot dog. I don't know. Is this like rhyming Cockney slang? Apparently, the comparison of the extended mags and hot dogs happened. So people are comparing putting an extended magazine clip on a Glock on a ceramic 9 millimeter handgun with hot dogs, which I don't think those things look that similar, but I guess I'm not a huge gun user uh, or hot dog eater for that matter. I mean, I eat veggie dogs, but yeah, that's right. It's the right approach. Yeah, you know what? Sure, I won't question it. Yeah, questioning a glizzy might get you in trouble with someone who's real into that. I have no idea. It does seem like yeah, very American and very stupid. Um, but in the spirit of that kind of rhyming Cockney slang, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know how we got here. But hey, it's 2025, and we're drawing the spam tongued little man. So yeah, maybe we won't refer to it as a glizzy internally, just as like a point of order.
Sure.
Seems
Yeah.
like we're aligned on that. Okay, great. So what are these little dots? I see you're kind of drawing the tongue,
Oh, just some little taste buds.
little taste buds. Okay,
Just
great.
yeah, just
Little
just give them
bumpers.
a little bit of a Ren and Stimpy, that grotesque realism, which is always fun to do with the cartoons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
add in the one or two things where it's like, oh, there's a little bit too much detail there.
Which is
Um,
a GM move in Booster Critters to do the extreme gross out close up, where we reveal that something normal is actually very, very gross, and it's very effective because you immediately, players not only laugh, but I mean, you can really legitimately use it to kind of reveal information. Couple things in the chat. Um, I could get if you had a hot dog and you were doing improv prop comedy with the homies, you might mime loading a gun with the hot dog, right? Yeah, I think actually, I think you're that might make sense, but I wonder if it's far stupider the actual, you know, origin story. And there's a question: will there be any drool flying off?
yeah,
Great
there
question.
definitely will be. There definitely will
Excellent.
be. It's a matter of how I'm going to end up rendering it. Do I want to do it with the line art, or is it something that I want to add in later on? Just sort of in the sort of like a transparency that's sitting over top of it, which is what I'll probably end up doing because I
Color.
don't want it to like interrupt the line art at the moment. It also you run the risk of it getting too busy. Um, by having lines for that, but it's something that we can do for fun in the coloring process.
Right. Right. Yeah, that does make sense. And it is interesting seeing the back and forth with the digital, which we've seen a little bit. We've done this with a couple artists a couple times, and it's fun to see different. I mean a lot of Procreate or Photoshop or this new program Magma. I don't know if you use that, Michael, that lets multiple
No.
people draw on one artboard. It's a kind of a web based Procreate.
Yeah, I tuned into one of the Sunday morning streams and saw that the guys were collaborating in that way, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, you should
fun.
come on and do it. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I was just gonna say it's fun to see the different levels of like, okay, let me draw it and then let me color it, and different, very different approaches to yeah, sort of line and shading. But I mean, ultimately, yeah, there's always that. If you're coming from that tradition of kind of representative illustration, there's that impulse to like draw the outline, right? I
Yeah.
know in art school it's like there's also like don't draw the outline. There's like just do shading of things, and they do produce different results. But I think obviously for the Nostalgitron, it makes sense that it's very much driven by sort of cartoon, cell animation, right?
Yeah. Take the opportunity that I have with this extra layer right now to add the little ring on the medallion here, and then pull that away.
So that's
Having
like a
them
bell or like as a flat
like a
line.
little like a little like a little dog tag sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, got it.
Yeah. If we just add a little line there, it'll give it some dimensionality there.
Yeah, now it looks more like a sort of coin shape.
Yeah, the classic Scooby Doo style. Although Scooby has like a almost like a diamond shape.
Oh, I never thought of it. There's just so many things that you could make into a good trivia round. I think a visual trivia round. Yeah, this is like I feel like it gets quieter when we zoom in and it's like detail work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Versus
yeah,
like madcap, like I don't know what shape is he? Like who knows?
yeah. That focus comes in.
Have you played a game called Gartic Phone? Gartic Phone, which I have not played, but I
I
just thoughts in the
haven't.
chat.
I
Sounds
have
like it's
not.
sort of exquisite corpse thing, which is fun. I like the idea that someone made a like app for exquisite corpse. So you're working collaboratively on a drawing, but you're only seeing part of the last bit. So you can only do so much that makes sense.
Mm,
Always fun. I've started and then never finished an RPG called Exquisite Corpse that would be somehow similar, but I don't. There's lots of ways that could go. I also now wonder what Gardic means. Does Gardic come from something like Garfield and Arctic? Speaking etymology.
Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there with them. The fun thing about doing this book is that because it's a little bit more into the cartoon aspect of it, like the straight cartoon stuff, um, I get to be way simpler with the lines, and then also like just these big bold shapes, which is it's a lot quicker. I'll tell you, sketching out those Chubcat cousins today. That's about. I think I probably worked on that for about an hour and a half and got Scruth, and then the other 6 of them done. And that's so much faster than a lot of the work that I've done for Nostalgitron, which was like we were going for a little bit closer to the comic book feel, and so like there's a lot more detail and greeblies and sci-fi stuff, right? So it's like, oh, I gotta really think about shapes and 3D and all of that sort of thing. But here it's like we actually get to cheat with the more cartoony stuff. It's really not that big of a deal. It's not that serious. So if a piece of anatomy is not quite right, which like that back leg's not like awesome, but I get to go like, well, they often did a really bad job of representing anatomy on Garfield and Friends, so leave me alone. And I get to make excuses like that.
No, yeah, and that's you got some shout outs in the chat for being fast at drawing, and I agree. I mean, a lot of this is like, I guess it's that if it was if you were getting paid for like doing one fine art illustration that was was had to be perfect in some way, but as you said, it's actually you're not trying to be perfect in the sense that this is supposed to be a cartoon version of far future like post-humans badly 3D printing things or something, or you know what I mean, like I don't know actually where the pork dog comes from, maybe it's just native to Ragoon, but it's it's sort of like has baked in the idea of kind of deficit, which is hard because you want it to be a fun drawing, right? You want it to be good. But I think to your point, you can get away with like, yeah, the leg wouldn't really attach that way. Like it's not a textbook. I love that color. I think that's the right color.
I do too. I do too. It's almost got a little bit of a Clifford the Big Red Dog, but he's going to be shiny and it's going to throw that off. And then I'm about to do something that might be controversial, but we're going to see how it goes.
We gotta have some controversy. We can't. Oh, whoa! It's a gack green tongue.
Yeah, yeah. The inside of the pork dog is the scariest part.
Well, that makes sense to me. No, like the inside of the sausage, at least to the degree that modern cheap hot dogs are sausage. That's the scary part, right? The outside looks nice. Well, great minds. I think the color. I think you. I think you nailed it. Also, this is Clifford, the worst red dog, which is very funny. Another suggestion: light blue for the inside. So maybe there's, I like the idea of this sort of greenish, bluish. What's the unnatural color, right? And it's not something you normally wouldn't cut open an animal and see that bright green inside, or blue.
Yeah, I'm good. I like that. I like that. I like going with a little bit more of the almost like neon on the inside of the mouth.
Yeah.
No, I like this. I like how off-putting and weird this is. This is the vibe. This is what I wanted.
Great. Yeah, I agree. The color of the collar, it might be I'm partially colorblind, so I should not be in charge of any of this. But it is maybe too green to me. I would change the color of the collar, but I think the colors otherwise look really.
Oh, the collar is brown. So
brown. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I wanted the collar to be mundane. That was the thing. Is that the rest of him is weird and this oddness. I was like, let's make the collar a totally normal dog collar, so it's just leather.
Almost like goat pupil eyes. It's got the bright green, big old tongue. And it's nice because this is a little more subtle. I mean, we've done weirder things, so I think just having a dog that is, not quite the dog you expect. I mean, it on its own, it's a great drawing, but in the context of all the weird shit happening, I think it is nice for that same humanizing reason that Franz Hambone, jazz musician who just likes pets, who's now living under the sort of fascist takeover of his town, is humanizing, right? And it's an NPC that's mentioned like once, right? But I think I think that's part of the joke of how we've approached this, is like building this whole cartoon universe. Like, I don't know, these are people you'd meet on the next episode if there were somehow a next episode. So I appreciate, Michael, all your thought into sort of how it would really work here. Can you tell us about the under shading, and is that as simple? I'm just guessing you take the color and you make a darker shade or something like that.
I mean, in traditional cell shading, that's exactly what we would do, is that you would have paints and you'd be using, especially for a cartoon show, you would have predetermined colors, right? Garfield's always the same orange, right? Odie's always the same yellow. And those would be determined literally by the paints that they would be using to do the cell painting on the for the animation. What I am doing, because we're working in digital, is I've got a layer over top of it that you see. If I turn that off, it disappears because it's a clipping layer. So if I draw outside of it, it doesn't show up. It's basically just saying like, only show me what's over top of this layer. And then I have it set to color burn, which is a way of it's a blend mode. So it's saying all of the names for the blend modes come from photography. They come from different exposure techniques. So color burn is a way of exposing something so that you could you're basically, it's literally what it is. You're burning the color over top of the next thing. If I were to take two like photographs and put them over top of each other and do a color burn, it would make more sense. I use it for this because instead of getting if I were to use multiply, which is what most people would usually stick to, you end up with it almost like a little bit more grayed out. Whoops.
Yeah, can you show us the difference? Because we
Yeah.
use multiply for this reason for some things, but I'm sure there's a logic. I'm not going to speak for Tony and Gay.
Yeah.
They know a lot more about this than I do, but we've had these discussions of like just what you're saying, giving it that evocative. I mean, it is one of the magical things about digital art, where you can, you reproduce a layer, futz with it, and you get those nice color interactions. So this is multiply, where it's grayer.
So this is multiply. So what multiply is doing is it's literally just multiplying the color, like the darkness. It's just adding whatever dark value is in the color on the top layer onto the bottom layer. But I'm using a fairly close to black. It's not quite black. It's actually a little bit purple. And so if I were to use the straight black, it would be even more noticeable because there would be no saturation being added to it. But essentially, multiply doesn't take into account the color, like the hue or the saturation, whereas color burn, so you can see with darken doesn't account for really any of the saturation whatsoever. So you can see how much grayer it gets. It almost like washes it out, which for something else, like for like, let's say Dance Macabre, that would totally be legit. That's actually the direction you'd probably want to go, is with something that's more muted or something that's more washed out, something that feels a little bit more like vintage or something like that. But with color burn, you can see that we get that the purple over the red is giving it an even more like sort of neon pink as opposed to that, right? So, and like if you were to take a look at some of the other ones that we get into, screen is additive as opposed to so it's getting into brightness instead of darkness. That's the other side of it. But I'm using a dark color, so you're not going to see a lot of stuff because it doesn't have a lot of value to pull that from. But I use the color burn on this, and I use color burn most of the time because it gets a really rich color. Like it gets instead of it being sort of like blacks on blacks, or like sort of pulling the saturation out of it, you get weird colors mixing together.
Yeah, I mean, it gives it that warm, I don't know, maybe pastel is the wrong word, but it gives it a different color tone that, again, I think it makes sense, like you're saying, project to project, because even normal Stillfleet, I don't think, again, that would be more question for Ethan, but that we have like a strictly defined palette for the art per se, but there is definitely a muted sense to the tonality, you know, and there's certain use of sort of red and electric green that's meant to sort of convey sci-fi-ness and scariness, but it's meant to be sort of dark, not fully, you know, that sort of Merkborg like metal. It's just meant to be kind of, you know, dark in this dystopian, more sort of capitalist sense. So it's you know, almost more like dreary, sort of pulling from sort of corporate, you know, Brazil, that kind of like maximalist corporate dystopian thing. But yeah, if it's too bright, if it's too happy, I think that would change the tone. For Nostalgitron, obviously it is supposed to be bright and happy. You're kind of Ninja Turtle-esque figures doing a Stillfleet, you know, LARPing as kind of Void Miners. And then, you know, you're kind of backing into having to make epic decisions, or that was kind of the pitch, or one way to describe it. So I think it makes total sense, and I do think it's really fun to see how much depth that like instantly gives. I mean, it brings the whole thing into 3 dimensions. So yeah, that's just cool. It gives a lot of depth to that crease in the tongue. I just want to pet this little guy. That's not true.
I imagine he's very slimy. And that when you pet him, you like actually slimy is even wrong. He's greasy. He's a hot dog. He's a walking hot dog. It actually looks a little bit like Stitch, which was totally coincidental. That was not the intent, but he's got some Stitch qualities to him with those ears. But yeah, I imagine it's a very like, oh, I need to wash my hands sort of experience afterwards.
Yeah. That's a little bit how I think about dogs. I like dogs. I feel like, unlike cats, I with cats I have to like make sure I don't have just clumps of hair, but it doesn't seem as gross because it's dry, which also makes sense. I was just reading about this the other day. I kind of knew, but reading more about it, I mean, cats did evolve essentially in an arid environment, and I think that they haven't changed as much as dogs in the course of their sort of quasi domestication, and so they're sort of still like little guys who kind of want to be in dry places, and like their fur is meant to come off and like be able to cope with wild temperature swings and things that just like dogs evolved in a more wet environment and have been thoroughly sort of more or less artificially, you know, led down certain paths. And so it's just sort of apples and oranges a little bit, even though they're closely related. This dog obviously not necessarily coming from the hard SF tradition of what ifs, where we're sticking to science news. But you know, who knows? It actually, again, it's not that far off. Actually, of all the things you've drawn, it's one of the. I see the 4 nostrils now are popping. I get it with the sort of the black holes of the nostril, really defined there. Love the goat pupils. So yeah, I'm very happy with this, Michael. I hope you are too. I will say we're at 9 o'clock, and seems like you nailed you know, the main thing you were going to do here, and maybe if we want to do it, you know, again, let me know. But we'll have some updates. We're definitely going to update the campaign, obviously, because pretty soon this other book, I should say, the zine, will be done, so people will have, you know, the digital version of the book Enter the Nostalgitron, as well as the zine Scruth Steals the Show. Say that fast. And then we just have to get it all to the printer and get it printed. So we have a question in the chat, so I'll just answer it here. You can also answer, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me on Discord. I'm at Stillfleet on Discord, or we will get back to you in our Discord, and also by email. So co@stillfleet.com. We're always happy to, you know, try to answer questions quickly. All the files should have come. So yeah, I would actually email me if something did not arrive that's digital. So the digital stuff should have gone out, but that's a good question. So I will have to look into that. Okay, I like the little dots, little white dots, and
yeah, I'm doing this so fast before we sign off, so that everybody can see the vision. And I'll refine this probably a little bit more before you guys see it again, but also probably not too much, because it is meant to be a very like sort of almost rough. So I did do the ad for this one, and it's sort of like the opposite end of color burn. but it's too much at the moment. So we'll just turn it down, which was the intent in the first place. But yeah, we just bring that down to a 20%, and then that gives you your nice shine there. I'll also add some rim lighting onto it, and then I'll go in and I'll probably do a little bit of airbrushing as well, just to give it just a little bit more dimension. But yeah, there you go. There's Grody. He was in my brain, and now he's out here for all of you to also enjoy, and that's like the best part of any of this. Is when there's something that's in there and it's rattling around like that little thing inside a spray paint can, which is how most of these ideas feel when they're inside my brain. And I just have to like press down on the head and spray it out onto the canvas, or digital canvas in this instance. Yeah. You know what's great about this character? I feel also probably really at home in Blister Critters. I think Grody is a potential for a crossover. Because Grody definitely has some of that Blister Critters vibe with the neon colors and whatnot.
No, definitely, and I think that would be fun. And again, something I can't speak for Tony, but I feel like he'd be down. Is some of it is just a question of like getting together, making a schedule, and like what is are we talking about a printed or digital thing, or like what's the scope, right? But I love the idea, and I think that's one of the problems with design, broadly speaking, of these games is you want to sometimes you come up with an idea and you're like, man, there's like a sub idea that now is as compelling as the main idea, or it's a separate thing, and so I've sort of doubled the amount of shit that I kind of want to get through. But definitely with Enter the Nostalgitron, because I think you're coming from that deep sort of character concept creation, background, we have that problem of like, man, now we want to have like NPCs or like rules for playing as a pork dog, like it does almost become a different game, because it's pretty different from the sort of Severance, but you're Warhammer 40k guys, sort of original concept. So I think we have to call it for tonight. But yeah, please, if anyone has backer related questions for the backer kit campaign, Enter the Nostalgitron, first of all, thank you for backing us. The book, you should have the digital book of the main thing at least, and we are printing it and all that. But please email me. And Michael, thank you so much for Enter the Nostalgitron, the writing, the art. It's been really fun to work with you. Really glad we're working with you on a chapter of the Guide to the Abandoned World for Danse Macabre, and who knows what will come next, whether it's Blister Critterage or Pork Doggage. This was fun. And definitely, Michael, also thanks for as Vex is saying, when your brain does a weird curse and now others share the curse, it's paying it forward with obsessions, right? So we all can kind of do it, and that's part of art. That's part of why we do the art.
Totally.
Anything you want to plug or say before we call it for the evening?
No, Nostalgitron's out there now, so if you backed it, you should have it. If you didn't back it, you can buy it. You can just go buy it off of different marketplaces. So go check that out. But other than that, just come find me on Instagram and Blue Sky, sometimes TikTok. All Arkangel Wulf, Arkangel with a K, Wulf with a U. Come follow me. I really need external validation in order to function. So that's like, I say it as a joke, but it's really not a joke. It's very real. I need people to go, when you have ideas as weird as this on a regular basis, and then you're like, should I show that to people? And then you show it to people. It's really important that you get the feedback of, we also think that this weird thing is neat or cool or funny or whatever. So yeah, artists, exactly. Hex is saying artists. That's it. This is just the definition of an artist. I have a problem, and I need to, as we said, a curse, and now I have to share the curse. I have a problem, and I have to make it your problem, and that is validation sent back at me. And so just a pro tip, all your friends who have art accounts, I'm just gonna let you guys in on a little secret. Just like their stuff all the time. Every time you see it, it comes across your Instagram, hit like. It comes across your TikTok, hit like, repost. You can repost on Instagram now. That's a new thing on Instagram. So repost on Instagram too. Share it with other people. But yeah, like it's so important. It's so important because like that fuel, it most of my posts get around 10 likes at the moment. I would really like that number to be higher. If it hits 15 to 20, I'm like, oh, people really like this. And then I get really excited and then I want to do more. So yeah, it fuels us to make more ridiculous stuff for you guys, particularly me. So
Yeah, no, I
yeah.
appreciate that, and especially it's very dark times,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to get together as a community, and we'd probably do it. I mean, we pretty much will do it whether we make money or not, but it'd be really nice to be able to do more of it
Yeah.
better and with less stress, and if some of that is mediated by things as dumb as a guy who names a company Macro Hard. It's like the rule, the rule setting of these giant techno platforms that control actually our
Yeah.
ability to even do this, right? Have this conversation, Michael, because you live in Vancouver, I live in New York, so it's interesting how fragile sort of the whole thing is. So it's been nice to kind of build a community in the air, have the kind of skythopters we're all riding around on. So I
Yeah.
appreciate your time, and definitely want to keep mashing the little heart symbol.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone in the chat. Thanks so much for comments and voting on the tales of a dog that is unrelated to chub cats. Clearly, this is a different species.
It's a different branch
Question
of
mark.
the evolutionary chain. Yeah.
Yeah. So we really appreciate your inputs to our xenofauna and flora. We just wouldn't know what they'd look like without you. Michael J. Cohen, Arkangel Wulf design and illustration. Sorry, I fuck that up
Yep.
every time. That's all me. Arkangel Wulf design and illustration.
Yep.
We'll have you on again. And until next time, you can usually catch us every other Sunday. So, we'll probably be on with Ethan drawn, I don't know, some kind of weird, like a gorilla but made of watches, I think, or something. Anyway, it's going to be great. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.